Hello, I'm Shreya and this is Decoding Code. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to manipulate files, and we're going to do this by writing certain values into a file in a certain format and then reading them out of the file and getting certain data points from the values that we put into the file. And let's just get right into it. So what I want to do here is I'm going to be getting these three values from the user. And one is I'm trying to create this kind of table. So the one is the first number in the table, and then the number of rows and the number of columns. So based on this, I'm going to create a table that's going to start at a certain value, and then each row is going to be increasing by 1, and then each column is going to be double the column before it. And then we're going to read it out, and then we're going to get the sum of all of the numbers in the table, the mean of the numbers, and the minimum number and the maximum number. Let's start. So here I have this integer utils, and that's basically just my own class, and I use this to get an integer from the user without any problems. So first we're going to ask for all of these values from the user. So I'm getting a number, which is the first number, times, which is the rows, and then columns. And I am going to be using FileWriter and PrintWriter. So I just put the path here, and I'm calling it times table, even though it isn't really a times table. And then we come to this for loop, and this is basically where all of the writing and the table is going to happen. Well, we have a for loop within a for loop. So this first for loop is going to go through the rows. And then the second one is going to go through the values in the rows. So the first one, we have an integer I equal to num because the first number is equal to I. And then I is less than num plus the rows because that first row plus the amount of rows is going to be that last row. So we want I to be less than or equal to that. And then I is going to be added each time. And then I have this other for loop within that for loop, and that's going to go through each value within the row, within each row. So I have this integer f, and that's going to be equal to 1. And then f is less than or equal to the columns, and then f is going to be added each time. And now what's going to happen is this is where a little bit of the math comes in. So for my table, each column is double the column before it. That means the first column is just I, and then the second column is I times 2, the third column is I times 4, the fourth column is I times 8. So we can see a pattern here. Now 2 to the power of 0 is 1, 2 to the power of 1 is 2, to the power of 2 is 4, and then 2 to the power of 3 is 8. So what's happening here is that with the first column, I is being multiplied by 2 to the power of 0, second column I is being multiplied by 2 to the power of 1, and so on and so forth. So that's what this integer p is for. It stands for powers. So for each value, we're basically using math.pow to say 2 to the power of p, and then each time it goes through, p is being added. So with each column, p is 1 more. Because 2 to the power of 0, then 2 to the power of 1, it's going up by 1. In the file, I'm going to print out the value plus a space. And the value itself is that 2 to the power of whatever times I. And then I'm going to close that string. And now we have to read out of it. So I have this buffered reader and file reader put in the same path because I'm reading from the same file. And I have this string line, this integer sum and max, because those are the values that I want to get. While this, I'm putting ln equal to read.readLine. So ln is going to be equal to the line, each line. And then while that isn't null, so read.readLine will become null when it reaches the end of that file. I am actually going to be putting this into an array because each line is a string, so I need to split that, and each line has multiple values, so I need to split them into their own values. So I'm putting it into an array, and with this array we can actually split it, and then I'm splitting it based on the amount of spaces between them. And for every single value in the array, I'm going to make it into an integer, and then I'm going to add that integer to the sum, and then I'm going to put the max equal to that. Because, well, sum is kind of self-explanatory, we're just adding it to the sum. But for the max, what's happening is that each time it'll go through, and the max number is actually going to be that very last number in the very last row. So as we're going through all of the lines, it'll reach the last line, it'll go through, and then for every single string in this array, it'll go through to the last string, and then max will become that last value from that last row. Max keeps getting replaced, and then it eventually gets replaced by the last value in the last row, and then that's what it becomes. I just print out the sum and I print out the mean, and the mean is actually just the sum divided by the amount of numbers in total. So the amount of numbers will be the row times the column. And then the minimum number is actually that first number from that first row. So that's just that first number that they put in from the beginning. And then the max number is the max. I'm going to quickly show you guys what that looks like. So let's run this quickly. Move me like over here. So we're inputting the starting value. I can have anything really. So I'm going to put 70. The number of lines, I want 10 lines, and then I want 6 columns. So it's going to give me all this data, and then I can go to my Finder to find that file that I'm writing here. In times table, we take this out, and we can see that it starts at 70. There are 6 columns, and then it ends at 80, which is 10 lines. So we can see that it did that, and it's in a nice, pretty format. So yeah, basically that's how it works. So that's basically it for this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. It would really help, and it is completely free. So think about that, and you can comment down below any questions or feedback that you guys have for me. And I will see you guys again in my next video. Bye!